we're going to get some real talk. We're going to talk about how to build product for the market, how to get a product to market the right way, and how listening to your customers in a genuine and honest way can really help you change your product strategy for the better. Shauna Wolverton is Senior Vice President of Products at Zendesk and manages their global product teams to deliver thoughtfully designed, market-changing products. Please give her a warm welcome. Here she is.
Wow, this is a great room. So I am Shauna and I run product at Zendesk. And one of our founding principles at Zendesk is that we design software for humans. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about how you can put those humans sort of at the center of everything you do. And my introduction kind of gave away my first slide here. It's not so funny when you've heard it already, but this is you know what? I can't. Can you go back one slide just for me? I got off a plane this morning on 7:30 from San Francisco, so I'm gonna just take a mulligan. That's cool. Great. So, I'm Shauna, Software for Humans. And when you think about the pain in your customer base and solving that pain, finding it turns out to be very easy. Who amongst us is not carrying around a backlog of voice of the customer feature requests, probably from your sales team, probably in a spreadsheet, not as stories in Jira, but that's fine, right? We're carrying it around from release planning to release planning, and we know what the pain is, but our job as product people is actually bigger than that, right? We do not take the requirements from the customers and give them to the engineers. We really have to know and understand all of those humans to make sure we're building the right things. Because when you do make assumptions, that can sometimes go wrong. And we are absolutely hardwired to do this, right? If we had to wake up every morning and make every decision from scratch, we would be doomed, right? We'd be paralyzed and unable to leave the house. But it's really important that we make sure we check those assumptions every once in a while. And I really think the best way to do this is to actually know the humans, right? I think when I think about one of my first PM jobs, I was doing this work of faxing. Yep, faxing. It happened. Out to these plastic manufacturers, and I thought, who wants to fax things? No one wants to handwrite. I'm going to build this killer portal online, and they can log in, and they can fill out the forms. And then I actually went to visit them. There was one computer in the plastics manufacturing plant, and it was in the back office, and no one who had it was where they did their finances, right? Turns out they loved the fax. So it's really kind of checking those assumptions and really understanding and watching those people work is where you start to get those kinds of insights. And I actually think, that knowing of people really is the discipline, right? We live in an age of an overwhelming amount of data about what our customers are doing on our websites, in our products, on their phones, but it's not enough. It really was not that long ago that we used to put software in a box and ship it and wait, right? And that insight we have has absolutely revolutionized the way, the sort of craft of product management. But those data points and those graphs and those user journey flows don't tell you the whole picture. And so I actually have a whole thing about sort of getting to know some of those data points, right? I think one of the first places you can get real exposure to real customers, I call it the PM torture chamber, when you're sitting and you have to be very quiet while user testing is happening, and that disembodied voice is saying horrible things about the beautiful feature that you just poured your entire life into. But I think, getting out in the world, sharing meals, having a beer, right? You can't meet all of them, clearly, but you have to know a sampling of them. Have a beer, ask them about their kids, watch them work, understand their lives. When you understand that the people who are using your software, are fundamentally their careers often are relying on the things you do, and they have lives and they have goals, and when you understand that full picture, and you sort of find, and it gets a little weird here, when you find love for those people, it's really hard to do wrong by them. It does get tricky, right? Because, we talked about one of our founding principles being designing software for the humans who use it. Turns out the humans who use it aren't always the people who buy it. And your users often are someone else's customers. So really understanding and sort of putting yourself in the shoes of both of those people. No one in the history of ever wanted YouTube to start playing videos in the middle of their ads in the middle of their videos, right? That's not a thing that a user of YouTube really wanted. But that person isn't really YouTube's customer. So, you have to make these balances about how can we serve the people who are funding us and making sure that we have developers and product managers to build great things, but aren't alienating or being too aggressive with the actual people who are actually using our products. And this is not a big truth bomb here. Hopefully we all sort of know this, but asking questions is great when you get the chance to meet your customers, but truly listening turns out to be a lot harder. I think we're all sort of tuned to listen for the things we want to hear, and it's really easy to miss out on the bigger picture. Before I was at Zendesk, I spent 14 years at Salesforce, and my PM job there was managing custom schema. And if you can imagine, very few salespeople called me and said, "Shauna, come to my sales meeting and talk about custom schema." So meeting customers turned out to be tricky in that position, right? We're not always invited to the meetings. We're not always able to sort of be where the customers are. But what I did was I sort of learned how to pitch the bigger platform story. Turns out customers came to our executive briefing center 4 or 5 a day, and my peers were not so excited about doing those briefings. So as a bonus, I got really good at giving presentations to customers, but fundamentally what I got out of that was a whole new observation of what happened when I watched customers talk to each other in that conference room, when the CIO was talking to the business analyst about what the struggles were. And it turned out, I had really got it wrong, right? We had this history of small and medium-sized businesses. I was designing all of these things, understanding how that part of the business worked. And when you got into the CIO and the IT department, it was fundamentally different. And there was a whole new set of tools and a whole new way of thinking about how product development happened that I just wouldn't have gotten if I hadn't actually taken that time and spent the time with those customers and really listened to what they were saying. And, incremental product additions, sort of new features, making incremental change, those are really great. Let's talk to customers, let's understand, but there's a fundamentally different motion when you're thinking about actually bringing something entirely new to market. And, we just did this at Zendesk. We decided after a lot of years of thinking about our strong suit being convention over configuration that we needed a platform. And some of this was from customers. We'd heard that, they wanted a few platform-like features, but we knew we had to do it in a Zendesk way. And so we kind of did that whole pain point thing, right? Disconnected customer data, it's in 1,000 places, but we know that whole customer 360 is the great white unicorn of the north. It's just, you're never gonna really get that all in one place. And then a lot of this idea of people being really frustrated, and this was fun to find, this was go out and look at other people's forums, right? Where are people complaining about the other offerings that are in the market to really understand the kinds of things that we could do differently. And we launched our platform, really, it allowed us to sort of go into the market with this other founding principle of ours, which is to be the company your customers want you to be. And I think product plays a really tremendous role in this, but it's often a whole company motion. If you think about what it's like for your customers to buy from you, to get service from you, and to use your product, and how is the product sort of helping all of those different functions to really bring this idea of what are the pain points across the customer journey, and how, as a product, are you starting to think about solving some of those pain points. And of course, one of the biggest things we heard from everyone was around closed systems and proprietary systems. And so the first real big part of this was about being open, being in the public cloud, not proprietary languages, no lock-in. But fundamentally, it was about bringing a product to market that at a time, it was really great for us to be able to solve a lot of pain points that I think had we done it 10 years ago or even 5 years ago would have been much more difficult. So once you have those products in market, it turns out sometimes, you might blow it, right? The feature you designed that you think was amazing and will delight your customers turns out to frustrate them. Your service may go down. And I think when you invest in these relationships with the people who use your products, it pays a tremendous amount of dividends. I don't know if anyone saw, a few months ago, Salesforce was down for 3 days. And if you went on Twitter, there were, of course, a lot of people who were very grumpy and grouchy, and there was all of these people who were thanking Salesforce for communicating with them, for being transparent about what was going on, and all of the developers who were working all weekend to get it fixed. And that is not a thing you get for free. You don't get that just by being good, right? That is a whole way of thinking about investing in really deep, really meaningful relationships with your customers. And those kinds of things will, like I said, pay a lot of dividends. And sometimes, though, at the end of the day, you get the "it's not you, it's me." Those misses added up. A customer leaves. Maybe they go out of business. You don't often know, but these are tremendous opportunities to talk to customers who, for whatever reason, decided to leave you. It's very sad, but so often we find customers leave. They think the grass is greener, and they come back. So when you sort of take that emotional investment and you follow it all the way through the journey, you have a much better chance of sort of getting those customers to consider you in the future. And it can really tell you some important things, right? I think there is, an airing of grievances that can happen when you're no longer in a relationship, and you sometimes get a lot more truth when a customer is on their way. And that transparency is huge, right? I think when you listen to customers and you understand their pain and you really know who they are, you have to do work to show them that you're listening, right? I have a fun feature at a part of every event that we do. Internally, I call it the airing of grievances. Externally, it's our voice of the customer feedback. And I get on stage with all of my product managers and anyone who's at our free events. You could be the tiniest customer or the biggest customer we have. You can ask us absolutely anything about the roadmap, about a feature that's bothering you. It's tech support, it's therapy, and it's a way for all of us to put a human face on our customers and for our customers to put a human face on us. And so I think as you think about solving for pain, like I said, I think when, there's a lot of easy ways to find the kind of top of the skim the cream off the top of pain, but it's these deeper relationships. And I think, I lose a lot of people on this one, but it's really this idea of loving them. I think it's really, really difficult to do wrong by your customers when you have a love and respect for them, and not the sort of, teenagey butterfly in the stomach love, but the I know that, you make weird noises when you eat dinner and I'm going to stay married to you for 20 years anyway. It's that kind of love. And because it's really easy sometimes to resent your customers, right? I mean, you watch them and those user journeys and they're falling off right before the great thing that you built, and data will never be enough for you to really uncover what's going on there. And when you invest in those relationships, great dividends happen. So that's me. Are there any questions today? It's early, I know. More coffee, anything? Yeah. Thank you. Oh. The question was about not just having, how do you handle it when you not have a new product but a new user experience for the product? Turns out that is something I have deep experience with. How many Salesforce users in the audience? Yeah, so apologies, I was responsible for Lightning. That was huge, right? It was take a 16-year-old software product and throw away the entire UI tier and start from scratch. And do it in a company that has no DNA for change management, right? The whole thing about Salesforce is you go to bed on Friday, you show up on Monday, voila! That's not what happens often when you build a new UI. So that took a lot of what I call hand-to-hand combat. I conscripted an army of people to go and do events across the world. They made me a concert tour, big lightning bolt on the front and all the cities I visited on the back. And it was really about over and over and over and over talking to customers about why we made the change. Because I think when you're in your office and you're trying to get things done, change is not fun. Like, nobody wants a lot of change in their job, right? They've learned something, but when you can start showing the benefits and you can give them a whole bunch of guidance on how to make the leap and how to do the transition, we ended up making a whole online training class for our customers to give to their users so they could understand the new UI. So I think it's very much a journey and hard. Good luck.
Hi. Thank you for your presentation. It was amazing. And to me, one of the parts that really touched me was when you talked about establishing honest relationships with your clients. And it's always a thing that I don't know how to begin with. Because it's easier when you're like at the same company or if they are clients already, and then people can introduce you to them and then you go from there. But how do you, like when they're new clients, how do you start this relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, it depends a lot. My hook was always reaching out about user testing or early access to something as a way to start building those things. And then, you know, if you are out in social media and you're talking about the kinds of things you're doing, if you're writing blog posts, customers would find you. There was a guy in a wizard hat that used to find me and take selfies at events. So maybe, you know, set your boundaries properly. But yes, it's really, I think, if you put yourself out there and are open and want to have those conversations, I think that people will find you. Right here in the front.
Yeah. When you talk about feedback from the customers, what way that feedback you have found that is really helpful? Like when you say face-to-face, but online, SMS, emails, what?
Yeah, that was about a question about channels of feedback, and I think it's all of them. When I was doing Lightning, I had 16 channels where people could give me feedback. We had an in-app feedback, there was social, there was through the SEs and the sales team, there was stuff that came in from events, and we just dumped it into a big pile. A lot of it was manual reading. I think there's some great tools now about sentiment analysis and being able to sort of understand you know, the gist of a lot of that feedback, because it can get overwhelming depending on the scale. And I think it's also important not to over-index, right? I think face-to-face feedback is at a different kind of level than data or someone complaining to a salesperson because they want a discount or something. So, you know, in that magical alchemy that we do as product managers, it's about sort of figuring out how you weigh all of those things as you go forward. I think I have time for one more, and I'll be around. Oh, no, I do not look at that. I do not have time for one more. The boss says I am done. But I'm around, and so feel free to find me. It was, thank you so much for having me.